message carved in Santiago Segura's gravestone, protector of the arts, reminds us of the linked mecenas artists that made possible many small and big pieces of art in the turn of the centuries in Barcelona. In the period of this style we are commenting in this chapter that has given Barcelona so much personality, Modernisme. Examples of patronage are the Palau de la Música Catalana, a plot in the old town given by the Marquis of Castellbell, or also the financial effort from 1888, when the richest people of the time, under the leadership of the mayor Rius i Taulet, made possible a successful universal exhibition. The School of Art La Llotja, financed by the Junta de Comerç, the Assembly of the Traders, La Chambre de Comerç, also play a key role in promoting young talent. The grants given by this institution allow many young artists of the time to travel abroad and afterwards bringing back home all that they had learned. Number 7. Maria Luisa Denis Reverter, Santiago Rossinyol. The latter started a career as a writer sending letters to Maria Luisa, who later would be his wife. She is known for her literary works and not so much as a painter. His husband was the true animator of the Modernisme movement in Barcelona. As a many-sided artist, he developed a painting style of a deep melancholic touch, together with some theatre works, a part of his career as a painter. The main theme in the later, in the pieces of theatre, are the conflict in between generations. A conservative petit bourgeois family, thrifty and industrious, with a son that turns into a black sheep because he wants to go his way, be an artist. But despite all the criticism towards the social class that Rossinyol really belonging because he was from a family of industrialists, that they had some cotton mills, he never refused the rents from a factory near the Ter River, which was managed by his brother Albert. This vital contradiction was a source for distress for many artists of the time, and some of them solved the stress, the strain, the inner strain with suicide or the mental health hospital. Rossinyol, beyond his own artistical achievements, is a key figure from a golden generation that always tried to cut the edge. He was in Paris with Casas, Clarasó, Utrillo, and Pere Romeu. He was in the cafeteria The Four Cats, a meeting point for the artist community, Barcelona in the old town. And there Rossinyol became a role model for many young artists. He used to spend the summer in Sitges, where besides the palace called Cau Ferrat, it's worthy also to see the monument dedicated to El Greco. Rediscovering this painter from the 16th-17th century was basic for the artists of late 19th century and early 20th century. The tenebrism and mysticism of El Greco was inherited by the modernist artists. Also very important influence for the Catalan painting of the time was the English Pre-Raphaelism. It was a way to escape from reality. Even in landscapes and views from gardens, that load of melancholy of someone missing something is ever present. Rossinyol died in 1931, where he used to spend large seasons in that village painting his gardens. By the 30s, the Modernisme was long forgotten. Longing for a youth and a fame gone was added to the intimacy that always professed artists like Rossinyol, Casas, and Clarasó. Number 8. The sepulchre of Pere Llibre, which died in 1888 at the date of the bright awakening of that city of the wonders, as it is entitled La Ciudad de los Prodigios, a bookseller with a very nice book on the modern history of Barcelona, La Ciudad de los Prodigios, by Eduardo Mendoza, shows this burial shows a leaning angel towards the gravestone. This attitude of winged creatures interacting with his protected ones is often repeated in the cemetery. The sepulchre is a work of Josep Campaign, and his style can be described as a meeting point in between the coldness of the classicism and the restless, ethereal works of the Modernisme artist. The very same body, showing more masculinity, is miles away from the very pure, more evanescent Modernisme sculptures. The angel bears a whip cloth and his crown with a diadem, and he is placing a ring of flowers over the tomb of his protected one. The circle stands for the continuity life-death. Ageless is that geometric form, a never-ending movement. In the one hand, to place a crown of flowers on a tomb would be the ancient way to lock the soul, avoiding a return to life from that soul. So it's not bothering the people living. When someone does not accept the place where it has to be, he can turn into a ghost. The reason why in cemeteries are so many angels is due to the function that these androgynous creatures plays. Androgen, because remember, the sex of the angels was during many centuries very hot point of debate for the theologians, and never has been solved really. These spiritual winged beings are God's messengers, couriers, and heralds of the Almighty. They will know in the final judgment who to help to climb up to heaven and who to set aside. By these times, the people thought seriously in the resurrection of body and soul. Therefore, when someone lost some part of the body, that extremity, that member, was kept, and when the burial day came, the arm, the leg, or whatever was reincorporated with the whole body, with the rest of the body. Some aromatic herbs grow wildly next to the tomb. Thyme, rosemary, lavender, and other herbs always were used in the burial ceremonies to purify the atmosphere. It was a hygienic measure that also helped the audience to forget thoughts of putrefaction. Number 9. The Pantheon of Manuel Ferrer y Barral shows a figure with sword in hand, a work by Rafael H. The pursuit in any funerary piece is to wake up some ideas that the people has about death. That goal is achieved through the use of symbols, which can be more or less explicit. The sword comes to represent how firm is faith. The little church is of Byzantine style, neo-Byzantine style, fashionable in the times, though the free modernist line is also present. So normally we find in the different architectonic proposals not very pure specimens, but kind of hybrid. It's more dominant, for example, this neo-Byzantinism, but with a touch of Gothicism or Modernisme. That's normally how they used to work, no? In the times the architecture styles. So yes, we were saying the whiplash is also there present, lightening the whole work. In that time, architects had an open range of models in which to inspire their works, revivals more or less similar to the original. We call this appetite for all architecture as historicism, and thanks to it, the study of past style was improved. With this will to revive forgotten Romanesque, Gothic, other styles, so with it they were doing more research to really know how it was in the times. In Catalonia, Puigcercà Falc and Domènec Montaner studied and spread the knowledge of the Catalan Romanesque. The end product used to be a kind of eclectic cocktail of different styles. At the foot of the building, one can find the signature from the architect. Labro, Mefesit, it was carved, it was made by. Number 10. Ferrara Sicandi. In line with his condition of anatomy professor, he opted for a hyperrealist work of baroque photographic poignancy. It is like an epitaph made sculpture. In the end of century Barcelona, so end of 19th century, so about 1889, 95. Actually, the cemetery is from 1883. So in that end of century Barcelona, the medical profession became prestigious and necessary, as happened with lawyers and other liberal professions. The strength of that step between upper middle class shows the chances to climb in the social scale. At the same time, the existence of a large group of professionals reflects the vitality of the economy, increasingly demanding more and more services. Number 11. In the Struck tomb, we find once again a slim figure by Clarasó, an idealized way to catch the idea of beauty that was developing in these times. She is like a soul leading a parade. So this kind of wandering soul, it's quite a perfect piece to understand how was the beauty prototype in the time. So at the antipodes, very opposite, for example, from the Rubens family, or also by this after this Modernisme, so by 1920s, it was a more strong girl with more healthy color, more Mediterranean, also in some modern cities like New York. It was like the Art Deco woman, no, like more sophisticated. So always in the history of art has been changing, no, the prototype of feminine beauty. And in the Modernisme, it was quite a precise type, these slim, bloodless, anemic girls. The very same dreaming character of the artist, unhappy in a world of facts, made them tend to those ethereal muses, ghosts, spirits. The maid stands over a rustic tumult. That is an easy way to gain altitude, to gain height, without big wars of architecture. Moreover, a tumult expresses very rightly the idea of returning to the earth where all of us come from. We are ashes, and ashes will return. Let's remember how many people in ancient times were buried under piles of stones. The maid goes blind, with a bandage over her eyes. Is it not faith? Blind also. We find a bush with yellow leaves, the color of mysticism, that together with white makes the flag of the Vatican, for example. Colors also have a great lot of symbolism. Red stands for violence, white for purity. In a cemetery, we have to try to avoid color explosions like Macedonia, Tutti Frutti, because that could lead to the feeling, some kind of feeling of gladness, which is supposed that you don't really have to feel in a cemetery. On the contrary, not gladness but mourning. Likewise, excesses of darkness or black are also to be avoided. The best combinations are green, white, and gray. In the arm, holding the bronze cross, the stone suffers from the illness of exfoliation, a type of disease that some stones, not all, but some stones, they suffer. The used stone was the soft grace. In the picture, a portrait of Enrique Lacio by his friend Ramon Casas is to be seen. The latter is also an unavoidable character for the Catalan Modernism period, which was especially like an epicenter built up around the Cafeteria Quatre Gats. The Passeig de Gràcia, it used to be until 2005-10 a design shop called Casa Vinson. And nowadays is another shop. And well, nowadays there is this shop. It used to be the house of Ramon Casas, and this place became a place where most of the influential people of the times went there to have a talk with his friend and to let him themselves be portrayed. Ramon Casas always knew how to capture the psychology of the model. Also very interesting are some charcoal portraits on paper done by a teenager Picasso when he was in the Four Cats. For sure, Picasso, Nunet, Casagemas, and other young artists criticized the sculptures that were working in Montjuïc. These youngsters represent a new generation that refuse angelical and pre-Raphaelite evasions from reality. They wanted to face death in a more crude way. They lived the dark side of la bohème, the existential anguish generated by the changing times. Tom 12 is the one of Balaguer, where we see an adolescent angel by Gimona, so quietly sitting down on the tomb. Is that aesthetic sensitivity of an inward emotion what makes Barcelona's cemetery so special? The attitude projects sweetness thanks to the shaping of the figure with a flowing line. The hairs dressed after the typical Modernisme waving line, and in the corners dropping leaves, blocking the tombstone with a natural touch. Achieving unity of sculpture with the base that supports the sculpture is one of the greatest contributions of the Modernisme to the history of art. The boy doesn't look like something attached but fits perfectly in his sitting place. This scene could happen in the real life, while a horse never would jump into a podium to become a monument to decorate a square. So one of these great contributions of Modernisme is that blur the border in between the base and the figures above or next or in front of it. While before and actually after the Modernisme, the sculptures normally were also, like a podium, a kind of cube, and then on the top, somebody standing on an equestrian sculpture. Just in front of it, stuck on the rock, we can find a big stone placard with the carved names of Francesc Rius i Taulet, Celestino Barallat, and Leandra Albareda. It is the commemorative placard, big one, dedicated to the opening of the cemetery in 1883. Rius i Taulet was the mayor of Barcelona, promoter of many important projects, directly influencing the growth of the city, as the very same graveyard and the exhibition of 1888. The event was key to the city. Now it is seen as the starting shot to all the Modernisme fever that Barcelona lived for around 20 years. The success of the Universal Exhibition came to confirm the expansive chances that industrialization opened to Catalonia. The exhibition left us still standing because many buildings they are ephemeral. They dismantle them after the 4 6 months that last normally the exhibition. So this exhibition of 1888 left us one of the most beloved monuments of Barcelona, the Columbus column. Also we have Passeig Colom, a nice avenue that ends in the monument. The city was embellished with lights and palm trees, and in the Parc de la Ciutadella, some buildings from the time still can be seen. Risu Taulet assumed the responsibility of the organization of the exhibition after the original promoter abandoned the project because he had not the capacity and financial means for it to carry it out. Persona could fall in shame before the whole world if the exhibition was not ready for the time. As the Spanish government rejected any fiscal help, Barcelona's mayor had to sought the compromise of the Catalan capitalists. Very stubborn, moving earth and heavens, the mayor could lead, could lead finally a successful universal exhibition, with all the works ready at time for the opening. Arc de Triomphe is very interesting as a piece of architecture because it was a kind of revival of the brick and shows this adoption of some kind of Muslim style, so-called mudéjar from parts of Spain, but revisit in a modern way. So it was in the time also like a declaration of intention to say we are not making a triumphal arch like normally they are done with stone and very cold, very sober. We want to give it another sense, and that was actually Vilaseca, the architect Vilaseca. He really achieved this very new way to make a triumphal arch. Number 13, we are facing the funerary monument paying honor to Blanco de Arenas. He was from the nobility and made a career in the military. The helmet and the epitaph express the ideals of honor of that member of the aristocracy. The Pantheon has two facades, with a good combination of oppositions with male and female angels figures back to back. Joseph Campaign injected a lively touch to these playful warden angels. The sculpture was able to sizzle an instant of these creatures, as they would have been taken by a photo camera. The Marquis Blanco de Arenas got the office of General Captain of Catalonia in the last third of the 19th century. It was a time of social turmoil and political rows between liberals and right-wingers, violent demonstrations, the Carlist Wars. So what is this Carlist Wars? The followers of the pretender Carlos, the so-called Carlistas, Charles, had many followers in Catalonia and in the Basque Country. It is due to the respect that the pretender Carlos promised to the autonomy of Catalonia and the Basque Country. On the contrary, the liberals of followers of the Queen Maria Cristina were up for a uniformization of all Spain, with the same laws and duties, thus building a centralized state. The military power always treated very rudely popular revolts, trade union strikes, and Catalan nationalist demonstrations. Blanco de Arenas was responsible of a huge repression that Barcelona suffered since 1856, when he was in office of being this captain of Catalonia. The reputation gained in Catalonia was considered a good background, and Blanco de Arenas was promoted to assume the position of general captain in the last Spanish colony, Cuba. So he was in office 79-81, and the Philippines 93-96. Despite Blanco de Arenas assures in his tone that I did what I had to do, his receipt of violence and denial of any social and Catalanese claims made the things worse. In the colonies, all ended up in the War of Cuba. That actually they gained it, as you know. While Catalonia went through the tragic week. So while other countries they were successful in getting away from the Spanish Empire, so still they are the Catalan, the Basque nations that they haven't achieved to regain the independence. So yeah, this period it was not only the nationalist matter, but also was the social matter, the hate against the church. It was an event called Tragic Week, Semana Trágica, by 1908 when a mob went burning many churches. It was also a fiscal protest, the so-called tancament de caixas, locking the cash boxes, and then also was the time when they were created some Catalanese parties, not so much claiming for independence, but at least for some kind of home rule. So these parties, pressing, and pressing, at the end, they achieved that Madrid authorized a kind of little self-government, like a union of the four Catalan provinces called Mancomunitat. Number 14, the Tomb of Torres. Once again, Gimona, the sculpture, is working for a Torres family, though this time the angel is rather a fearful guardian. Modernisme is a very decorative style, and one of the ways to achieve that is with the interweaving of Celtic inspiration. Celtic and Scandinavian manners open a whole range of possibilities for local artists, which were a bit tired of Greco-Latin examples. The never-ending knot of the Celts also expressed very well the idea of eternity on the ongoing regeneration of the matter. Having a look to the angel from behind, we can see an iron bar holding the heavy wings.